48-hour art check.
That's right.
And we are trying out the trial version of the paid thingamajig for StreamYard, which is a 7-day trial. So we'll see if we can use all the bells and whistles today and Wednesday, and see how that goes. But so far it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, all right. So you guys want to jump in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Should we take like 20 seconds apiece for working out and then jump into art progress?
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I've been keeping up with my pull-ups. I'm up to 8 at a time now, up from 6 on Friday. I'm doing 2 to 4 sets a day. I had to kind of stop running for a minute just because I got sick on Saturday, so a little behind on my mileage. How about you, Josh?
All right, so I did do 10 extra. I've added 10 more poles to my rowing. I did manage to do 10 extra lifts for my lifting set, so I hit my goal on that. And then I idiotically thought that I could jump into doing pull-ups without priming it and getting used to it. So actually today I read a little bit on pull-ups and realized that first I need to just do like free hanging, and then I need to build up, like see if I can get to like 2 minutes of that. And then from there, go to just holding like a flex hang with my chin over, and then move into push-ups or pull-ups and chin-ups. So probably chin-ups first. So I have a ways to go because I went gung-ho and like I could do pretty much like the push-up to a lift, and then I did 1. And then I tried again and I got 1. And I tried both grips and all I could get was 1. Yeah. I tried multiple times, so I ended up doing like maybe 5. And I literally today couldn't even do my lifts because I recognized that like there's that level of soreness when you introduce something new to a workout that like it takes it. It's funny too, because yesterday I recognized it and it was like, oh, this is actually going to be worse tomorrow. I know it because I did all of that on Saturday. And generally there's like a 48-hour thing. So it's like that second day that the pain hits in. And yeah, at work, I was just like, oh man, Corey is pretty hardcore. So
I haven't been used to that one particular activity. That doesn't make me hardcore.
Well, it's a pretty hardcore activity. So but I'm excited about it because it's a good pain. It's like I didn't, the pain's in all the right places. It's not like in my back. It's just in like all the muscles that that is going to build, which is kind of exciting. So
you don't want to push it too much on pull-ups because you can blow a shoulder really easily. So it's good that you're kind of easing into it. So
yeah. Well, I will. I will now. I tried to jump in, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go that route of like get the free hang first. So for the workout thing, I guess for workout goals, I'd say my next thing is just to maintain that extra amount when I'm able to get back to lifting. And then I think that I want to integrate like a free hang and try to just do 2 minutes and see if I can do that and kind of ease into it and learn, like get my body used to that. So yeah.
Cool. Scott, how about you for working out?
Well, typically I jog about 5 miles in the morning. This weekend I went up to Flagstaff, and the first day I didn't jog. The Saturday I didn't jog. Sunday I did a little bit, but the elevation up there is pretty hot. so I was like, and I was going uphill, so I didn't go as far, but it felt like more of a workout. So, but then today I kind of going back to my normal routine. But it's going to be difficult because my kids are back in school and my son doesn't have his license yet. So there's like, I think if I have to take him, it's between me and my ex-wife, and if I have to take him on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, I think he has to be there at 7. And, and then you kind of have to just wait around for him. Like I've just been going, if I take him, I go to Starbucks and I sketch and stuff like that. But if you can't, I mean, if you don't go in the morning, you just don't go because it's too hot here. So
Yeah.
so that's going to probably be a problem. So I'll have to see what I can do about that. I may just drive him to the school and then try to find a place around there that I can jog. I mean, there's no reason why I couldn't, so I'll probably do that. So there's that. And then I would say about 5 days out of the week, I also do work on the rowing machine, and just basically, there's either like this or like this, and then there's 2 different places where you set your feet. And I just do like 3 different reps on that. But I've got like a Bowflex. Eventually I want to set that thing up, but it doesn't have a bench on it, so I got to make a bench for it. My biggest thing right now is I'm totally off the diet, so it's like it just sucks, man, because you work. I mean, you could run 5 miles a day, and you think that would kind of make up and just kind of so you could sort of eat just like a normal person, but no, I still gain weight when doesn't matter how much I run. So
I'm trying what Ox is doing, which is intermittent fasting. And I did that. I've done that for a week successfully so far, and I've been doing 2 meal replacements with that Soylent stuff.
Yeah, I'm not really good at that meal or fasting.
It's
the diet that I'm going on. It usually is successful, and it seems like a decent amount of food. I mean, you're constantly eating throughout the day, but it's just super low calorie. So I usually, if I just say I'm going to do it, then I'm okay with it. But every once in a while, the problem is you break off you go to a party or something, and you're like, I'll just continue to do this for a while. And then there's sort of a threshold that if I get to, then I go back on it. If I get past this, the weight. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I've added this banner because we all went over. So I'll just so we don't go too long, since I don't have an animated timer that works with StreamYard yet. We'll see if I can get that done. But yeah, that's good. Okay, so that's the new part of our check that we are checking in and make sure that we don't die in the next 2 years of just sitting in our chairs. So how about progress, Josh? What have you gotten done in the last 48 hours?
Okay, let me get my share set up here. Hey, okay,
Sorry,
there we go.
We both clicked it at the same time.
That kind of worked. So basically this is the thumbnail for the next page. So I got that executed, finished the last page, and then now I have to actually set this up. So, and then basically, here we go. So this will show you kind of what I'm working on now, which is I did the rough lettering and panel borders for the next page. And so my next goal, like today, is going to be this panel right here. You see my mouse kind of wiggling on. I'm going to do rough pencils for that, which might actually take a while. So yeah.
Cool.
But that's pretty much what I've gotten done. And I think now that I realize, I think I was actually showing the wrong I was showing the wrong page. So let me show that again real quick. Sorry. So yeah, so this is actually the rough
right.
Yeah, so that's it.
Cool.
Do you know what's cool, Josh? I mean, I with your thumbnail with that kind of blue, I almost think like, as much as I love black and white, I think the comic might also look cool with just like one color, black and another color. Might kind of, I don't know. It just looked interesting,
Yeah, I mean, I ideally I like working with one tone. Like I think like one tone of blue or like a light color or something. It's something I'm really comfortable with, but it really greatly exaggerates the cost to produce.
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah,
that's kind of like right now I'm just trying to make it work as black and white, because the beauty about making ink work that can work in just straight black and white is like adding a spot color. Victor actually just said like a spot color in the chat. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, adding like a single color can always be done. But what can't be done is like to reduce a single color that's added and make your black and white work without it. So like, to me, I think it's better to make it work in black and white first.
Yeah. But I
feel
that color by it, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. But anyway.
No, I agree. I think that would be fun. So, yeah.
Cool. Scott, how about you?
Okay, let's see. So I'm going to click on this thing here. All right, so my Comic Maker Toolkit is live right now. It's exclusively through Design Cuts, and I don't know if I have a link. I should have done, but if you just go on Design Cuts and then just search Comic Maker Toolkit, you can find it. Oh yeah, that's not a usable link though, right?
No, it's not.
Or you could type in that whole thing right there, which no one's going to do. I think it's easier just to go to Design Cuts and search for it. But so yeah, it's live, and I think they said that they're going to put it in their newsletter. So hopefully it'll be a good thing. Oh, and it's 30% if you go there now for the first 2 weeks. For the first 2 weeks, I think, or no, 15 days. I don't know, whatever. Limited time, it's 30% off. So that's cool. So I did that. I also just launched this video where I compare the Hoo brush tip markers to Copic markers. And I was hoping because these Hoo, I mean, they're super cheap for brush tip markers. You're not going to find a better, cheaper marker out there. So I thought, because I thought I would get some affiliate money, and I realized as soon as I uploaded the video that they're out of stock now because they're so popular. Like I had to wait because I watched somebody else's video, and I had to wait to get mine. As soon as I got mine, they sold out again. So just keep an eye on those. But yeah, they're pretty good. So
and they're alcohol based.
Yeah, alcohol based. Yeah.
Cool.
It's like right now they don't have as many colors as the other Hoo markers that they had, the previous ones without the brush tip. But since they have those colors and since they're so popular, I don't think it's to be long before they put those out. But it's like $1 a month. You got to buy the set of like, I think the set I got was like 40. You got to buy the set, but it comes out to like $1 marker as opposed to like $7 for Copic. So thank you, Victor. And then what else? Let's see. So I wrote some stuff down. So like I said, I went to Flagstaff. So I kind of took a little bit of a break. And then I came back and did some setup on my computer. Let's see. Send out a newsletter, which mentions, so if you're on my mailing list, check your spam folders. You might have a newsletter in there with another exclusive video and some tips and stuff like that. I did some freelance work. I've been working on some graphics for the new YouTube series that I'm doing, and I've been printing some comic pages because right here, just for my mini comics, because they've been sold out on my store for a long time. So I want to get those up there. So if anyone wants those, they will be coming soon. So that's it.
Cool. And for me, let's see. So I got this guy finished up as far as the actions he'll be doing in my animated short. And so he is rigged. And then I had to do a little bit of, let me see if I can zoom in on this. I had to do a little bit of, you can see like right here, I don't know if you can see this, but the shoulder, it moves like it's actually animated rather than puppet rigged like I normally do. And so and the wrinkles are animated as well. And so they actually shape tween over time. And then the other thing is I did this guy, I got him going on his walk cycle. So he turns his head and flaps his arms back and forth and his feet bend. And I can control all of that with this controller. So I can come in here and it's going to be too much for my computer to handle right now. But anyway, I can come in and kind of move this around and he'll get up, and so I can control his walk and he can go a little bit or a lot, basically, is what he does. But so I'm on track with those two characters. That was the two that I had planned on getting done. And so that's what I've gotten done.
Awesome. And Squatchy just said, "Greetings, humans. El Squatcho has arrived."
What's up, man?
Squatchy.
So, okay, how about challenges, Josh?
All right. Main challenge. We're in the thick of rush season. It's gonna get old me saying that because our rush season lasts for all the way from mid-August to pretty much all throughout September and October. So it's just going to be a crazy 3 months, and that's for my day job. So just keeping up with that, the commute, and then this workout pain has been quite a bit of a challenge too. But surprisingly, like that's been a challenge, like kind of taking on a new challenge, which I'm actually really happy to have. So, but so far kind of managing to keep ahead and stuff. So,
cool.
Yeah. What about you, Scott? What were your challenges?
So like I said, I went up to Flagstaff to get away from the heat, and was kind of relaxing up there. So I didn't get a lot done. So, it's always getting back into the swing of things. So not a huge deal, but a little bit of a challenge. The other thing, when I got back, I decided I purchased these, USB hubs, because I've got all these USB ports, and some of them aren't working on my computer. So I bought these two, they're self-powered and everything. So I figured I would, reconnect my whole computer. And also now I got it set up so I've got my Screen Deck is plugged in, whereas before it wasn't, because it has to be plugged directly into a USB port, not through a hub. So that freed up a port for me. But anyway, so I did all that stuff. And then somewhere during that process, I lost the sound. So I spent a good hour or two trying to figure out how to get my sound back. And it ended up, after I went through all the troubleshooting that the internet told me to do, when I rebooted or I updated Windows, and that fixed it. So, but yeah. So yeah, that's about it for challenges.
Cool. So challenges for me. I'm just gonna put this back up. That's pretty much it. No, I mean normal stuff, but I had to figure out a ton of stuff that I had no idea how to do, and it is like, for my level of animation, exceptionally complicated. Just figuring this out, and then just like family stuff, just a ton of stuff going on. That's just super time consuming. So that's pretty much it without getting into detail. But yeah, so like my son he normally goes to bed at 6:30 and went to bed today at 9:30. So that was a better chunk of the evening that I didn't get to do anything with. So yeah. So anyway, how about plans, Josh?
Right. So by the way, I chuckled because I kind of relate. My son got sick this weekend too, so that was a bit of a challenge. So my plan is I'd like to it's funny because I just took a second look at that first panel, and I think it's actually going to take me till next time to finish that first panel because it's another crowd scene. And so hopefully two, but I'm aiming for realistically one. And then I would like to tomorrow try to see if I can do that, slowly easing into pull-ups, like the beginning where I just free hang, and see if I can do that for 2 minutes with both holds. And then I think if I can do that with both holds for 2 minutes at a time, I'll be good to graduate to just I guess they're called flex arm hangs. And so that's kind of where I'd like to be.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're doing that. I suggested flex arm hangs, but I hadn't thought about just hanging to get your body used to the hanging. So
Yeah, I think
that's a good idea.
I read mentioned just to get your muscles used to like having to hold that kind of thing, like all the muscles other than your arms, like your hands, and then your body itself. So
Yeah.
I don't know. If it's super easy and I can do 2 minutes, I'll just go straight to flex arm.
Yeah. Cool. Scott, plans?
Well, now that I've launched that starter or the toolkit, that's kind of a big project off my plate, but I kind of want to continue going on kind of in that direction. And right now I'm working on some fonts. So I'm going to have like a kind of a font pairing that's going to be my next digital product that's also, comic book style font that I'm going to launch. So I'm working on that. Working on this YouTube series on making comics, and then I've got some sketches and stuff that I'm working on. So
cool. So Victor was asking if my animation was meant to be interactive, because I have a bunch of controls that I've added to it, and it's not intended to be interactive, but it makes it easier to animate for me at the end. And I always try to overcomplicate things, because I try to make it like, what if I want to use this again some other time? So that's what I'm doing there. And then Squatchy's saying that we always have rad shirts on, which I agree. So we like shirts. So anyway, yeah. So plans for me. Let me do where to go. Do this here. I should have been doing that while I was talking. So this is what I am looking at. So I have one more. I have the back view of that ant character to rig and animate tonight. And then before I go to bed on Wednesday night, I will have my main character from the front rigged and in a sitting position rigged. So I'll have 2 views of another character by Wednesday.
Awesome.
That's kind of what I'm looking at there. So yeah. All right. So that's it. That is the art check.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do we want to do as a topic?
It just dawned on me. I don't think we've decided yet.
Anybody have any suggestions in the chats while we're debating? Yeah, let me look at. Salazar says they didn't see the notification for this. One thing to do is you can follow us. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter to get the notifications, because YouTube seems to be kind of spotty with giving notifications. So I'm not sure why YouTube is selective about the notifications even after people choose to be notified by something. I don't know why they do that. But yeah, so let's see here. I'm trying to think. We've got our check. All right, let's see. We did book recommendations recently. Style. Client communication could be interesting. Why you should explain your craft. What does a personal project convey to other people? Let's see. Sales funnel. Reverse engineer to trade up. Style and voice. Stop me if any of this jumps out. Squatchy's asking if we collect comics. I don't have like a collection necessarily, but I do have, if you see behind me, I'm kind of one of those trade waiters. So I do have trade paperbacks and hardcover editions of things. But as far as like collecting the floppies, I typically wait out the floppies.
Yeah, I can say, for that, I have like 2 giant bookshelves actually 3 bookshelves in my room that are like just stacked with graphic novels. And I'm much along the lines of Corey with that kind of thing. And then I have like in the garage mass amounts of long boxes of comics from when I was a kid, when I used to do the floppies, and I have yet to go through them. I need to just to kind of, I don't know, parse like some, like get through some of them, and I don't know, but I haven't really, I don't know. Have you guys ever opened up the old long boxes and perused through and seen?
Every once in a while, I do. Yeah, I probably should go. I think I went through. It wasn't too long ago. I went through and kind of organized them and stuff. And there's just, yeah. I don't think I have anything that's worth anything, but I mean, it's all worth something to me because it's stuff that I collected as a kid, you know. But it's funny because I've been watching like the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel, and they'll go back. They'll pick like a topic at like a particular type of comics, like they just did one on computerized comics. And I have like most of the run of like Shatter, which was like the first computerized comics. So it's weird stuff like that. That's like it's nostalgic to me. I don't know that stuff's worth anything, but it's kind of interesting to hear them talk about it and go through those things. So that's really interesting. And plus they're going through like old Wizards and stuff like that, Wizard magazine and stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know. I've got like, I don't know, probably about, I don't know, 6 or 7 short boxes, and then I collect pretty much everything Alterna puts out. Right now I got a couple of the Stranger Things titles. Let's see, what else?
How are the Stranger Things titles, out of curiosity?
They're pretty good. You know, it's kind of a different timeline right now. They're dealing with it's called 6, which is like, you know, before 11 there was a 6 apparently. So it's kind of, you know, it doesn't feature a lot, you know, the kids and stuff. The first series they put out was basically what happened to Will Byers while he was in the Upside Down. That was kind of cool.
I liked that one. That one was cool.
Yeah, this one's interesting too. It's just kind of what happened the previous trials and everything like that. So yeah, they're pretty good. I collect Oblivion Song, but I haven't read it in like since probably issue 3. But I just kind of like the cover art, and I like the interior art too. But so yeah, that's about it. And then I'll buy some trades and things like that too. So
nice.
Okay, I've got a topic. Okay. Combinatory play. Have you guys heard of Einstein's theory of combinatory play?
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh, this is going to be over my head.
No. He because he's Einstein, he writes this thing in a super complicated way, but I've actually been reading up on it recently, and amongst a few other things, and it's an interesting concept that is really basic, and I think we all kind of do it. And so today's topic is combinatory play, and so I'm just going to pull this up on the screen, but basically,
wait, does this have something to do with the Commodore 64? Or?
Yeah, Einstein was he invented the Commodore 64 before it was invented. No, so here's an article on it, and if you just search for combinatory play, you'll find this quote. It's a letter that he wrote to a colleague. There's also another letter that he wrote to his son that explains it, but basically he talks about, if you get stuck in a problem, doing something else that is somewhat creative and so in his case, he says the above mentioned elements are, in my case, of visual and some of muscular type. Conventional words or other signs have to be sought for laboriously only in a secondary stage, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of hard to understand, but he talks about this associative play is sufficiently established and can be reproduced at will. Meaning, when he is trying to problem solve, what he does is he would go in and he would play the violin, or do something visual like painting, or do something that involves some sort of muscle movement to be able to engage different parts of his brain without focusing on the problem. And then as he was doing that, the problem would become more clear to him, and he would often solve it. And he finishes this letter by saying, "It seems to me that what you call full consciousness is a limit case which can never be fully accomplished. This seems to be connected with the fact that the narrowness of consciousness, is something that we have to deal with. And he goes on and on and on. So basically what he's saying is that what we are consciously aware of and what we're consciously trying to think about is only part of what our brain is doing, and that we don't actually have the ability to completely control the full function of our thinking. And so that's where this kind of narrowness of conscious comes in. And the way that he got around that to use more of his thinking ability was when he was working on a problem, he would do combinatory play, meaning that he would go and he would do something entertaining, he would do something playing. And for him, he felt that if it involved some sort of movement of the muscles and something visual, then it would unlock a greater ability to problem solve.
You're just giving everyone an excuse to go play video games.
Now, yes, except he doesn't mention this, but other studies that I've done, other studying in this topic that I've done, I think what he's talking about, and I don't know that this term had been coined as he was doing this, was the default mode network, which is a psychological state of mind where neurologists call it restful wakefulness. And I've talked about this a lot, but you have to be bored, right? And so it's got to be somewhat playful, but not necessarily entertaining. And so, or in other words, I think programmed time versus unprogrammed time. If it's programmed time, meaning that I am watching programming and being programmed by a TV or a video game or a movie or something like that, that's not engaging your brain, that's disengaging your brain. But unprogrammed time, where parts of your brain are being engaged into activity, works really well. And I've known people that reupholster old furniture. I've known people that, go rock climbing. I knew a graphic designer that used to work for me that when he would get stuck on a problem, he would go antiquing, because we were like in this like historic district. Basically, it just meant it was really old and only antique shops were there. But he would just walk around antique stores. And so my guess is that the way most people play video games would probably not work in this situation.
That's interesting. I know one thing that there's certain work that I do that requires a lot of thought, and there's certain work that I do that doesn't. And sometimes, I will switch over. Like if I'm like having to come up with ideas generate ideas for something, whatever it is, and if it's just not coming to me, sometimes I'll switch over to just go like ink a project, because to me, I can just kind of, it's,
right.
I don't have to really think about it, but I still feel like I'm being creative, and that's a little more therapeutic for me, the inking process. So I tend to do that quite a bit. I don't know if that falls under the same category or.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly the same type of thing, because it's something where it's engaging a different part of your brain, but it still frees up a lot of time to think. You're moving, and it's got some visual component to it. Because I found kind of the same thing with inking, that I can get a lot. Or figure drawing for me is another one where I can kind of think through things. Or even just stuff that is just unrelated, like sculpture, or Victor suggesting that he should take juggling. And I think if you add a unicycle, then that would really work really well for that.
Unicycle, and get a pet monkey as well.
I had a roommate who actually he would get angry if I would make fun of him for being raised in a circus, because he wasn't technically raised in the circus, but he was raised in a family of traveling entertainers and did like fire swallowing and unicycle juggling. And anyway, he was basically a circus performer.
Yeah,
but
I was just going to say, my girlfriend has a friend whose husband is like I don't know. I don't know if it's professional unicyclist or what you would categorize him on, but he like his actually like an off-road, like he'll go like in the mountains on a unicycle, and like somewhere there's videos of him going through like with the what do you call it, the GoPro and everything. I mean, it's just like amazing what this guy does on a unicycle. But anyway, so
that's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing you could do, but apparently you can, or with enough practice, I guess.
Off-road unicycling. All right.
So, Josh, do you have any type of activities that help you come up with ideas or solve problems or generate? I know you do word lists and things like that, but I think that feels like more of like a more focused concept. But is there like an activity that you do as a break that you find helps engage your mind in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, most of doing the rock and roll thing and playing with a band is actually like a kind of break where I can still be creative and still engage the creative part of my brain, but it's a different kind of creative, and it's definitely more feeling based and it's sound based, and there's a lot of activity to it because it's rock and roll, so you're jumping around when you're doing it. When you make it, it's a lot different than art in the sense that, like, when at least in comics, because like when I work on a comic, I labor over it for like years, and if I watch somebody read it, it's going to make them feel weird.
Yeah.
And then aside from the fact that like when they do read it, it's going to be very quick. Whereas with music, it's like you get to actually kind of make that, especially with rock and roll, you get to make it in front of people. So when you play a show, it's like you've rehearsed and you've written this thing, and then you get to actually kind of express it in front of an audience. And that's really fun and cool, and definitely engages. I feel like the two feed each other. And I do catch myself, and I'm kind of curious if this ties in at all to what you guys do. But I always have these moments of like when I'm working on art, wishing that I was working on music, and when I'm working on music, wishing I was working on art, on drawing. It's like this weird back and forth of like a grass is greener kind of scenario. You know?
Yeah. While we're talking about that, I'm curious on anybody in the chats if you have any similar activities, because it'd be interesting to get kind of a list. I think I have some addictions that kind of come into play, and so like whenever I get to a problem where I'm like, I struggle with a problem for 10 or 15 seconds, and I'm doing something that doesn't come automatically, like animation. I notice that I'll jump to video games like almost immediately without thinking, which is not helpful. But as far as the grass being greener, I wonder how much of that is your brain, because there's another type of thing that people talk about called the rich connection network, which is super hard to say, and I always feel like I pronounce it weird because I don't want to trip over myself as I say it. But a rich connection network is the concept that if you don't know anything, then learning something is really hard. But once you learn one thing, you actually relate that one thing to the next thing that you learn. And if you know 500 things, then the 501st thing that you learn is related to all 500 of those things. And so your ability to process and relate unrelated things increases as you know more and as your skills increase. And so, for example, whenever anybody says like, hey, you haven't been drawing that long, how did you get to this point or whatever? I always say, yeah, technically I hadn't like focused on drawing until, 5 years ago, but I did do photography and video and a little bit of motion graphics and graphic design and art direction. And so there's that rich connection network. So I wonder how much of that, Josh, is involved, because even though one is totally visual and the other one is very auditory, there's still kind of a common kind of, if there was a Venn diagram of like music and comics, I think it would be in the timing and the pacing. Because I feel like that a lot with like editing audio. I learned how to edit audio before I learned how to edit video, and I feel like you get kind of a feeling of when you should do a cut based on the sound that's going on. And so I wonder if your brain is making that relation as you're doing one or the other of those activities, if it's saying like through the rich connection network, like, yeah, this is like this other thing that you do.
Yeah, I think it's very possible. And I mean, I definitely see them as connected. It's weird. And I definitely think they're both kind of expressions too, you know, and so it's like, I think the things I'm drawn to, and I think this goes for a lot of creators, but I think we're drawn to like making new things. And so, or things that are like authentic to ourselves. And so it's like, I think anything that's like making something authentic to yourself is really addictive for me as a thing. So even writing too, writing's another one. Where it's like, I really enjoy doing writing. If, you know, in my other life where I have like 1 million hours, I would love to write just a book. That's just a book. No imagery at all.
Yeah.
But
I've got the same thing. That first comic that I did, I think it'd make a much better novel than a comic.
But then it's one of those things of like, with what time, and then it's difficult to kind of juggle those things. But I do think it's good to navigate a few different creative paths, because like you were saying, if you get in a rut, you know, it doesn't hurt to kind of switch gears. It's interesting to me that like Einstein was switching from mathematics to get inspiration from visual art or auditory art, whereas like to me, if I switched to mathematics, I would just get a gun and shoot myself. Like, I wouldn't do it. Like I just there's nothing relaxing or freeing where I'd be like working on a mathematical equation and be like, oh, that's what I should draw. It's more of like I'd work on a mathematical equation and be like, oh, that's why I draw, because this is like I hate doing it. So I don't know. It's I do wonder if that helps too. Like I do wonder if maybe something that's even more outside of it could like kind of open up those problem solving abilities. I do know, and we've talked about this before, but it's like at least in art direction, you get stumped with these like weird conundrums every once in a while, whether they're like managerial conundrums or design conundrums or whatever it is, where they just seem like these problems that literally cannot be solved. And a lot of the times, the majority of those solutions come to me when I'm just commuting, when I'm just driving. And so that to me is like, I wonder if part of that reason for that happening is also because of the fact that it's a different activity. It's not creative. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the stuff about default mode network would everything that I've read on that subject would say that commuting is the perfect activity to kind of unlock your creativity because it's
get creative.
Yeah, because it's boring, because it is it's not program time. It becomes autonomic. Like you can lose yourself because you're not having to think through the process. Like driving is kind of automatic until somebody cuts you off, you know, or whatever. You know, and so there's a lot about that most people, when I do this in class, where I ask people like where they do their best thinking, or where they have their most creative ideas. And most people say the shower. And the shower is like, I think it was, there's a documentary on the Sunday comics cartoonist called Stripped, I think, or something. And one of them said, yeah, I take a few showers a day, like just because like whenever I get stuck, I just jump into the shower, and then all of a sudden I start thinking of jokes and thinking of compositions and thinking of whatever. And the shower is kind of like a commute you know, you don't have a screen. It's not entertaining. You're pretty bored. It's something that you've done, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of times in your life. And so it's very rote. Anyway, Salazar says, I take walks. It helps clear my mind, which also I think is good. There are other studies that I have not read in depth, and so I can only kind of speak real kind of on a tertiary thing, but that connection to nature engages different parts of your brain. And so there have been suggestions that if you are stuck, that you should take your shoes off and go walk outside in the grass or the dirt or something, because like the different sensations, you get a different tactile response. And the story that they always tell with that is this monk that was trying to help somebody solve this problem, and he said, you need to take your shoes off and stand in the grass. It was to fall asleep. I don't know if it's true or not, but the story goes,
don't do that if you're heading to like a holiday party and then terrorists take over the building, because then you get shot with glass all over your feet.
Yeah, and I imagine in like Phoenix, it doesn't taking your shoes off in the summer and walking outside would be detrimental. But the line is if you never remove your shoes, then the whole world feels like leather.
If you remove your shoes in LA, the world feels like hypodermic needles.
Victor says, I listen to music and try to lose myself and find different emotions. I feel that helps me with some ideas, unless I'm doing something mundane. That helps too. Yeah, and I think music is awesome for a number of reasons that kind of go along with this, especially if, you know, like listening to music 30 years ago or even 50 years ago is way different than listening to music today. And so like today, music is the background to the other activities that we do in our life. But like, you know, decades ago, it was the activity that you did because you were tethered to a hi-fi, you know, or whatever. And you had to get up and turn the LP over to play the other side and things like that. So that's kind of an interesting one. Tim says that taking a nap works because it gives him kind of the time to daydream. I think that's another good one at times. I always play nap roulette, and I'm not sure if like the nap, you know, a quick nap is going to like rejuvenate me, or if I'm just going to turn into a grumpy, tired monster for the rest of the day. Like it's never in between. It's always like, that nap was amazing. Now I can go for hours, or like, I want everyone to die. I hate everything. It's like I have that kind of dichotomy in napping. So those are some good suggestions. Anything else that you guys, anything else? I've been talking a lot. Anything else that's coming up as we're kind of exploring this?
So I have the kind of contrarian thing come up, which I can't help, but it's like the one thing I would say that kind of comes to mind is like, I do think there's also kind of this weird thing in culture, in some culture right now, where I think some creatives, you know, including myself, I've fallen victim to this before, but have kind of fallen for this like muse mentality. And I think some of this can start to diverge into that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm working on this thing and I've hit a problem, therefore I need to go play the violin, and then I need to, you know, do my walk and my bath and like, you know, set everything up for the muse. And I would say like I have seen a lot of people where the issue isn't that they're blocked, it's that they don't sit and do the work.
Yeah.
And so like that is something I'm always cautious of when it comes to my mind being like that, because 9 times out of 10 for me, most of what needs to get worked out or problem solved is right in front of me. I'm not blocked. And most of the stuff kind of telling me like, you should go for a walk or you should go to a party or whatever is just a thing that's taking me away from accomplishing what I've set out to do.
That's why I like the inking or the coloring or painting or whatever, because you're still being productive, but it just doesn't, either you can kind of zone out and just do that, or while you're doing it, that other stuff starts to seep in, and you're generating ideas or whatever.
100%. And I think designing your workflow too to kind of accomplish that, like we've talked about that, but I didn't set out to do my graphic novel and like thumbnail the entire thing, then pencil the entire thing, then ink the entire thing, because I realized that would be a big setup with my mentality to like completely fail at it, because there's not enough interest in it. So that's why I kind of pace it out to where I even left the thumbnailing to the end. So the only thing I really fully worked out before was the script.
Yeah.
And that keeps me engaged in the process, because with this long of a process, I think if I had to do it in like a streamlined kind of like studio style, I think I'd burn out, because there's not 10 of me to like knock out roughs and stuff like that. So I build a little bit of diversity into what I'm doing so that I can avoid that very thing that'll like drive me to the other things. But like I said, I do think it's one of those things I balance, like, because I do think a lot of the time people can give up too easily when they're about to hit it. And I've seen that with a lot of creatives when they're like right on the brink, they're about to hit it, and then they're like, oh, I got to take a break. And it's like, no, like actually you need to see it through, because you're like right there.
I want to point out, I'm not saying take a break. So I don't think Einstein was trying to get good at the violin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when I go on a walk, I don't go on a walk like my wife goes on a walk. Like I am deconstructing the forms of things as I wander around. Like I will look at like trees as I'm walking by and try to deconstruct like the pattern and consistency of how the leaves branch off from the branches to try to see like what the pattern is, because there are patterns in nature. I'll try to figure out like the tonal values of a cloud, and try to, and like, so I don't think it's like, because for me, some people, video games work really well. For me, video games are a complete cop out. They are not productive. I play video games. I love video games, but like if I pick up a controller, I am not problem solving. I'm just wasting time. It's a fun waste of time. But there are things where, especially in something super technical, like this animation that I was showing before with the walk cycle, is a good example of that. I didn't know how to do it, and it's Salazar says unless it's Tetris, which I could make an argument for Dr. Mario too. I have a Dr. Mario on the iOS. If anybody wants to play me, I will stomp you into the ground. But the thing is I was trying to figure out this walk cycle, and there was something about it that was just not right.
Yeah.
And more time at the computer, staring at it, tweaking it, doing stuff with it. It was a dead end. It wasn't that it needed more effort. It was that I actually needed to solve that problem. Like I didn't know what was wrong. I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. And sometimes, for me at least, when it becomes something that is new or an unprecedented idea or concept or challenge for me personally, if it's precedented, if there's precedent for it, then a lot of the time you just need to stay there and just do it, and it'll come. But if it's unprecedented, then that's what I'm talking about, is like I needed to go do something else. And so I turned some wood on the lathe. I replaced some pegs on my motorcycle. I went on like a 45-minute ride. Got some bugs in my teeth and some wind in my hair and stuff. And then actually on that ride was when I realized the part of the walk cycle that I was missing. Yeah. And then once I identified the problem of what was going on, then my mind was able to figure out like how I would execute that problem. And when I came back, I knocked out that solution in about 20 minutes. And so that's kind of what I'm saying. To slightly disagree with what you're saying, Josh. I basically agree with what you're saying, but I think there are scenarios where you do need to step away, but I wouldn't call it a break.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that entirely, because like, a good example in my head is like when I was primarily making my living doing t-shirt art, and I'd have to do like high concepting for t-shirts, and it's literally like, if I don't come up with like a killer viral concept within the next week, I'm not going to have a roof over my head.
Right.
So every once in a while I would just hit a complete block, not like a writer's block. Like I had just notebooks full of ideas, and just like a concept I was trying to work just wouldn't really work. And those are definitely moments where it's like when you're hitting that kind of brick wall, like every once in a while, like, yeah, like having a walk or like a break, or like I mentioned before, just like picking up a guitar and just trying something different that's creative. And then suddenly the solution would often just kind of present itself. Especially in the case of like trying to think of humor, man. Yeah. If you're trying to come up with funny things, like one of the best things to do is just go socialize for a little bit and like talk to friends and stuff and see if something's funny. Like, just pitch a bunch of stuff to buddies, and like, it's amazing how much that'll kind of come up with really cool ideas and stuff. So I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, I have also noticed, like, prevalent in our culture, a lot of people who I think want like and I'm not talking about you or anyone on the art.
You can throw me under the bus. It's cool.
But what I'm saying is, like, I've noticed like a kind of coddling of the creative, kind of taking out the work of it, which is like, I think that's something I always want to highlight, is the fact that like it's actually hard work, and like a lot of the time you do kind of have to power through those things until you do hit like a complete brick wall. But because I just think of myself when I was younger, and I'd be like, I don't know what to write, and that wasn't me hitting a block. That was just me wanting the thing to write itself rather than to like do the hard work of the writing.
Yeah, right. No, totally, and I see that a lot too. I'm in a situation at work where I teach people that are most of them are not used to a creative practice. And when I say that, I don't mean that they're not creative. What I'm saying is that in art school and if you learn certain creative craft like writing or whatever, there are processes that and practices that you are trained to do, or you should be. If you're not being trained to think, if you're just being trained on technique, you need to go find someone to train you on how to think as well, because if you just leave an education having technique, then you're gonna be automated out of existence. But I have a lot of people that will come and they've never been trained on how to come up with these processes to do this, and I just start with sketching, which seems really basic, but you would be surprised at how many people want to do art, illustration, animation, writing, graphic design, and they don't like sketching. And I don't know if anybody really likes sketching, but they're like, sketching's a waste of time. I just want to jump in or whatever. And it's like, no, this is the part where you need to eat your vegetables, because here's what I think it does. Sketching in particular, but most of the things, is it does what you're talking about. You push against that problem enough that it's not fun, but you're putting in the work. And putting in the work is introducing that concept and the variables of that equation and the problem that you're trying to solve, the solution that you might be trying to come to. All of those things are kind of imprinted into your brain during that early process. But what I see with beginners a lot is they check the boxes, they go through the motions of that, and then like, it didn't work. Yeah, I tried it. I did it. I did it for like 20 minutes and like just it didn't work. I'm like, yeah, that's not, you didn't put in the work. Like you've actually got to sit down and you've got to like do it so much that you are no longer thinking about the sketching, but you are introducing the problems and trying to come up with the concepts, and you push against it enough that then when you step away, you're not running away from the work. Stepping away is part of your process.
Yeah. And I think that I'm glad you brought up like the training to think thing too, because it's like, I think often, a lot of artists are kind of taught how to do the how and like what they're drawing, but they aren't really thinking of the why. And that's like, especially in illustration, like, if you don't have a viewpoint or something you're expressing, like a concept that you're expressing with an image, it's like speaking gibberish with a bunch of big words. Like like the point being, like, the English language is only as efficient as the message being communicated.
Yeah.
And art, especially in illustration, visual communication is only as effective as what it's communicating. So if you're using all the tools in the handbook, making a really pretty picture, but it's not saying anything, it's kind of a waste of a sentence,
Right.
Or a visual sentence. So like that to me, that's definitely something. But like, once again, that's the kind of conundrum that does occasionally require walks and requires like sketching and that workforce to like get out of the obvious. Like if you're just hitting every obvious concept and you can't get outside of it, that's where like the kind of techniques, I think, Corey, you're talking about. And then, like you said, technical stuff too, because sometimes, especially editing or with video process, a lot of the time you really do have to map out in your head how something's going to work, because there's so much planning involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyhow, I find it really fascinating. I don't know. Scott, like what are some of your go-tos? Like, did you kind of mention some?
I mean, I think the just the inking, coloring, like right now, and that's why I have like a bunch of different work or projects kind of going on at the same time, so I can switch from one to another if something just isn't working. Because I mean, there's that whole thing about art block or whatever, and as you guys know, when people are relying on you to produce art, you can't just say I have art block or whatever.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I mean, that stuff does happen where it's just not coming to you as fluidly. But so what you do is you move to something else. If you've got a couple different things that you're working on, you can work on the other thing and come back to it, instead of just spinning your wheels on one thing and not being productive that way. So I'm doing a lot of sketching, I'm doing these character sketches, and I'll do this, sometimes the actual sketch I have to think because I'm concepting everything, but I might just do, if I've got some ideas, I might just do 2 or 3 sketches and put those aside. And then when I have, sorry if you can hear that, my dog's scratching, he's doing something back there. But I'll kind of, I've got these sketches, I'll kind of, instead of just moving on to the inking stage, maybe I'll put them aside until I reach one of those points where I know that it's just not coming to me, and then I can just relax and do that. Or if there's like a podcast or something I want to pay attention to, it's easier for me to pay attention while I'm doing that, and I'll just kind of use that to to work along with and everything. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought up sketching too, because like for me, doing just doing life drawing is super meditative, and
Yeah.
it also becomes essential to kind of build that little log of data that is just stuck in the back of your head, so that like the next time you're sketching without reference or whatever, you remember like the line of somebody's nose that was kind of weird and interesting. And not only that, but also just to remember that drawing's fun.
Yeah.
And and like one of the beauties of like when you really start accessing life drawing, because I also remember that used to be one of my least favorite things on the planet as an artist. But once you kind of open and unlock that, it's one of the most fun things to do, because it's drawing without an agenda,
Right.
And often without commerce attached. It's just kind of pure drawing where you're not even having to concept too much, because the thing's right in front of you. You're just kind of processing images and recording, and it's really fun and very like I actually wish I had more time to do it, because I do think those are moments where I've unlocked a lot of ideas too for things I want to work on in the future and stuff, is just through the process of drawing for fun,
Yeah. And I'd throw into life drawing, if you don't know what that is. Observational drawing is also what it's called. But my sister-in-law does this really well. She makes her own sketchbooks out of watercolor paper and has like a little portable watercolor kit. And I just watched her. She's like a lawyer. She's not an artist. I mean, she's an artist, but I mean, she's not trying to make a living on her art. And we were out at this big family reunion. Everybody's playing at the beach and doing stuff and whatever. And whenever she had a free moment where she wasn't doing anything, she would sit down and she'd get out and she would paint a tree, paint the rock. Like she would just paint wherever she was, kind of plein air watercolor. And so I sat down and I inked a few things just, and I was like, I got to do this more for all the reasons that you just said, just because, like I wasn't going to sell it. She was like, oh, I don't know if I have any loose paper. And I was like, hey, if you're cool with that, I don't care. Like, I don't need it. Like, I'm not going to keep it or frame it or give it to someone or whatever. You can have it, cause I wasn't trying to sell it. I wasn't trying to make a product. I was just inking cause it was fun, like just loose, no pencils, just totally brush only landscapes. I hadn't done that in a long time. So
yeah, it's fun. The one risk that it runs is like, you can kind of get burnout from that, because I know sometimes when I'm off work, the last thing I want to do is draw. Because I'm like, I drew and then I drew for my comic. I don't want to draw anymore. I'm done working. I logged out, Yeah,
and that's where, get away from the computer and, fold paper, lathe, get out a knife and whittle. I mean, do anything that, for me, and I don't know that studies have really shown this, but for me, what I've noticed is if the activity doesn't require a lot of high cognitive thinking and is fairly repetitive and allows you to kind of just be with your thoughts, you can do anything, and some people really enjoy, for that matter, like mowing their lawn, or whatever, that type of thing, because of those things that allow, I just like, my dad is like this. He's like, yeah, I like mowing my lawn, because I just, it's, nobody talks to me, nobody bugs me, nobody needs anything from me. It's just like an hour where, it's loud and mundane, and I can just think. So, yeah. Victor says sketching helps muscle memory, because you learn from what you're drawing, get that repetition. Salazar is saying I've done sketches for logos, and then I'll turn the best one into a graphic, which is a great way of doing that. And so, yeah, there's lots of good things. I think sketching is good. I also agree with you, Josh, that if you've been doing nothing but drawing and you try to mix it up with a different type of drawing, it's still to your brain a very similar type of activity. And so it can be kind of whatever. I had a student who was trying to do a gig poster one time, and she was a very analytical person and was really struggling with it because it's a very creative project. And so I said, I want you to think of the least precise thing that you could do. And so she's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm talking about the bluntest, ugliest tool that you can imagine. And so she like went and got her niece's finger paints and just did finger painting for like 2 hours, and then came up with the idea. Because if you're a perfectionist and you're hyper analytical, try finger painting. That'll break you out of that real fast, because it's like, there's very few people that can do something that looks decent. It's messy, it's tactile, it's imprecise, and eventually it kind of breaks you out. And so that's kind of the type of thing that I think would be good is to do something somewhat unrelated, but that allows you the process of thinking. So
yeah, I 100% agree. I was just realizing too, like if you have a kid, grab your kids' art supplies, or just go to like Walgreens and pretend that $5 is a ton of money to spend on art supplies, and buy, a cheap Crayola kit and see what you can kind of do. What's surprising is like sometimes when I've like just drawn with my kid with like crayons, like I was saying about life drawing too, you'll kind of remember like, oh yeah, drawing is like really fun. Right. And then it gives you a little bit more of a sense of fun when you reapproach your own work, Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, I think that's good. We're at an hour 11 minutes. So that is our trial version of StreamYard, and the paid version. If you want, I didn't put the link in the thing, but I will put a link down there if you want to do that. We've got that on a banner somewhere, right, Scott?
Probably.
Oh yeah. If you go to coreykerr.com/48hr, you'll see an affiliate link. If you're interested in doing what we just did, you don't have to do an art check necessarily, though I'd recommend it. But if you want to do live broadcasts that have this type of switching and stuff, it's pretty cool. I like StreamYard. It's not bad. Some resolution issues and things, but I mean, for the most part, it's pretty decent. And if you want to check out Scott's work, you can go to circworks.com. And if you want to check out Josh's work, you can go to joshuakemble.com. And if you want to check out my work, you can go to coreykerr.com. And we'll be here again in 2 days to update you on our progress on our projects. And we'll see you then.
Bye.
And now the awkward waiting for StreamYard to stop streaming live.